Richician!
Hey YouTube, Dark Richician 84 here, and this is now part 17, where I talk about 2020. The shittest year ever, if not one of the shittest years ever, mainly because of COVID, just ruining the world. Yeah, we're here to talk about Yu-Gi-Oh stuff, of course. Now, what was I gonna say? So yeah, there was one other thing about losing my channel, I will say, which I forgot to mention, is that I also hate it when one person says, "Oh, I wish you didn't delete this video and that video." It was great. Now, while I appreciate that my videos were great, at the same time, I really hate it when people say, "Oh, I wish you didn't delete this video and that video." Yeah, that actually really pisses me off. Because it's like, well, don't you think I know that? And are you trying to make me feel more guilty than I already do about deleting my channel? So yeah, that's annoying. But yeah, despite this though, things actually started off really well. So well, in fact, that I was really hoping things would be better. Of course they weren't. But like I said, they did to start off with. And round about this time we got a great ban list, and Legendary LD6 came about, one of my favourite ever sets. So yeah, there were surprisingly good bans on the list in January that year. Thunder Dragon Colossus, Sky Striker Mobilizing Gauge, Heavy Metal Foes Electromites, I'm trying to think what else, but yeah, some annoying decks really got dicked. Yeah, also a Servant of Endymion got limited. Of course, that was the only time that Endymion actually got hit by the ban list, but rather annoyingly, these changes did absolutely nothing. Because despite those changes, Endymion was still able to just OTK or make a board at the gates that didn't let anyone play. In fact, by this point, actually, it was partially because of Endymion that I just stopped playing in tournaments for good, at least on a permanent basis, which is something I forgot to mention in the last video. Yeah, I gave up playing in tournaments again because I just got fed up of the meta, including Endymion, and I got fed up of just never drawing my sided cards when I needed them. As well as dealing with players who take the game too seriously. Now, yes, I would make other comebacks after that, but they were only temporary comebacks. I mean, like after that tournament, I never intended to come back on a permanent basis. But anyway, there was one thing I did hate about that ban list, and that was the fact that the Fosagen was unbanned, which I just didn't agree with at all, because it was banned because of True King Dinos, and like I was jumping for joy when that got banned, and I really, really didn't want it to come back. So I wasn't happy about that. Even to this day, I think that card should stay banned. But yeah, anyway, after that, yeah, Legendary Duelist 6 had been released, the protagonist set. It was described as a set suitable for me. They weren't wrong. Yeah, just kind of support for Dark Richician, Elemental Heroes, Synchrons, Utopia, and Odd Eyes. But of course, I was more interested in the Dark Magician and Elemental Heroes support. And yeah, Weber's 5 kindly offered to go halves on a case with me, so we did. He did want a few things as well, including Performer Pal's Celestial Magician, and yeah, this case was just insane. Like in my personal opinion, it was the best case opening ever, if not one of them, at least on the Team Sorcerers channel. It was just great. We pulled 2 play sets of Magician's Souls. I think we pulled 2 play sets of Liquid Soldier as well, and definitely more than 2 play sets of Soul Servant, as well as several copies of the fusions, the Dark Magicians and Elemental Heroes Sunrise. So yeah, they were big boosts to my top 2 favourite decks. Well, actually top 3, because obviously the supports did help out my Rainbow Neos deck as well. Then after that, I decided to film a Hero Endurance, where I'd only use hero decks against other decks, but before it began, disaster struck and my camera malfunctioned. Yeah, it had the same problem that my other camera did, and it just wasn't working properly. Like, I just didn't understand what was going on. I mean, it was working perfectly fine, like, beforehand, and as we were filming the case opening. Yeah, that just really pissed me off and actually ruined my whole day. Yeah, I was just having such a good time with the case opening. It was a blast. I got cards I wanted, and then my camera goes and malfunctions and just puts me in a bad mood. So Express Gaming offered to let me borrow his camera for it, so I did. But of course my camera couldn't be fixed. And so I ended up having to get a new one. Oh, and as for the Endurance, it was very even back and forth between my decks, Express Gaming's decks, and even Gamer Central's decks. But yeah, Elemental Heroes and Rainbow Neos prevailed. Yeah, because in the last one I used both those decks at the same time against Gamer Central's one remaining deck. And I did that because I wanted to be able to use all of my decks. So So I thought I might as well, especially considering my evil heroes were causing all sorts of problems to both those guys. Um, so I basically scooped up with evil heroes. Oh yeah, by that point I managed to get the newer evil hero support from Legendary Duelist 5. I got Malicious Bane quite easily, but a Dusted Gold was a struggle. Like, I've opened so many Legendary Duelist 5 packs and didn't pull a single copy of a Dusted Gold, which made that set an arch nemesis set. And I ended up having to buy a play set online. Actually, no, not even that. It was just 2, because I did manage to acquire one in a trade, which took some cards plus 20 quid. Because back then it was just so expensive. Probably a lot cheaper now, but yeah, back then it was a struggle getting it. But I acquired them. Oh, and I was lucky enough to pull 2 Malicious Banes from 2 packs, and then ended up buying the 3rd one online. So yeah, what was I going to say? So yeah, that was that. Yeah, the camera malfunctioning just put me in a bad mood, and so did a stressful day at work. Like sometime afterwards, but that's another story. Now, going into late February and early March, we were close to reaching 100 subscribers, so I came up with the suggestion to the other team members that we could do a 100 pack opening for our 100 subscriber celebration. And they went along with the idea. So I also decided to make a temporary comeback to tournaments for 2 reasons. One, to win as many packs as possible to put towards the opening, and B, I felt like doing a tournament challenge where I'd use all the decks I had in tournaments at that time. Obviously I had my signature 3, I had Black Wings, Rockets, Fish, I don't remember what other active decks I had. Oh, Evil Heroes, of course. I don't remember what else I had at the time. So my progress was underway, starting with Dark Richician, and I did manage to win my first 2 rounds. First I beat Gamer Central with level 5 warriors. Then I beat Adam with Necros, the same Adam that used Malefics against me when we first met back in 2014. But this time he was using Necros, which was kind of surprising. Hadn't seen those for a while. It went to a 3rd game, but I managed to win that one. And then I went up against Weber's 5 and just struggled against him, as usual. And again, I didn't draw any of my sided cards. Yeah, it was a struggle. Yeah. couldn't even win against it with the newer support that I got. Typical. Don't remember if there was another match after that though. After that tournament, I played Blackwings in the other one. This was the second time I'd ever played them in a tournament. And I kind of did better than the previous time. So round one I got pitted against Infernoids, the Lair of Darkness build. That was an annoying struggle. And it was during this match that I was actually given a wrong ruling regarding the Lair of Darkness and Blackwing Full Armour Master. Yeah, because the opponent tried to use one of the virus cards to tribute my Full Armour Master, but I said, I don't think you can do that because it's not affected by card effects. But then we were then told that it does work because Full Armour Master's already a dark. But it wasn't until some time after that I learnt the actual ruling, and that wouldn't have actually worked. So I pretty much got cheated out of potentially winning game one. And if that wasn't bad enough, I got stalled out by Mystic fucking Mine. Like, I had a couple of monsters on the field, and he didn't have any, and was just stalling behind it, just because he was one game up. And like I said before, this is just cheap, dirty, dishonourable, and disrespectful. Like, no offence to anyone, but it really is. Like, it's bad enough that Mystic Mine Burn is a thing, but tactics like this are a reason why it should have been banned, and banned a lot sooner than it actually did. Why it wasn't banned in 2020 is beyond me. But it's fine though, because I was able to turn things around, kind of. In fact, I actually used Icarus Attack to get rid of Mystic Mine, but then he went and activated another one, presumably through Metaverse, I think. I can't remember for sure. But then he decided to put monsters on the board, and we ended up with the same number, and it got destroyed, and that allowed me to go off and make my plays, and inflict loads of damage. And by that point time was called, and I had higher life points, so the match ended in a draw. Then I didn't do that. I went up against Hisham, and oh, that stinks. And I believe he was playing some sort of Dragon Link deck, I think, but I managed to win against him. Then I went up against Steve, who was playing Invoked Shadol, which I kind of struggled against, at least in game one, so he took that. But I was able to do a lot more in game two, but again, it went on for so long that time got called, and it ended in a draw. Then in the fourth and final round, I went up against Aaron Hedman, who was playing Spirals. But he seemed to have bricked in game one, and I was just able to do the standard Blackwing plays and just go on to win the whole thing. But but then he scooped up game 2 and just gave me the match, purely because he needed to sort out some trades with people. It was like, okay, fair enough, I'll take it. So yeah, technically I went undefeated in all my matches with Blackwings, but obviously because of the 2 draws I didn't win the whole thing, of course. It was like, okay, I'll take this result. Then after that, there was the next tournament and the last Saturday gaming session we had, before it stopped for a reason that I'll get into in a little bit. So at this time I took rockets, into this tournament. Oh, that's vile. But rather annoyingly, I went up against almost nothing but decks that I really fucking hate and don't like playing against. So first I went up against Cyber Dragons, used by Express Gaming. Yeah, game 1, he made Infinity and I pretty much couldn't fucking do anything. But I did manage to win games 2 and 3 though. I can't remember if Infinity was made, but if it was, I would have been able to bait and negate, and then proceed to win with help from Borrowload. Then in round 2 I went up against Weber's 5, and yeah, he just beat me game 1 because I couldn't do much. In game 2, like, I probably could have won if I did things a little bit differently. And this was a memorable game which Weber's 5 sometimes brings up. So his field was Endymion, Mythical Beast Medusa, and Reflection of Endymion. He didn't have a Jackal King on the field, at least not as far as I remember. But I did make a good comeback play though. I went Boot Sector launch, he negated with Endymion, then I activated another one, swarmed my field, and I was trying to think what link monster to make. Borrow Load or Borrow Sword. Borrow Sword could potentially help me get rid of 2 monsters and do more damage, but the problem was her Mythical Beast Medusa would cut Borrow Sword's attack in half. I think it would have still been able to have enough attack points to get over monsters depending on what I went for. I think, wait, no, because I don't know. No, because I could have switched one of his monsters to defense. I ended up going for Borrow Load Dragon because I felt it would be a safer bet, especially since Medusa's effect won't work on it, and if he did bring up Cerberus, then his banish effect wouldn't have worked on it. So yeah, I made Borrow Load Dragon, and the plan here was to attack Endymion and steal control of him, just to stop him negating half my deck. But this plan was thwarted by Medusa, because what he then did was use Medusa to cut Endymion's points in half. I was like, wait, what? I thought he couldn't be targeted by monster effects, but then it was cleared up when it was revealed that Endymion can't be targeted by opponents card effects. His own ones are still fair game, so he halved Endymion, and this kind of ruined my plan a bit. What I should have done was just go for it anyway, but instead I took his reflection and then attacked over Endymion just because I desperately wanted to get rid of him, but this ended up backfiring, of course, because he was able to search for a spell off his battle destruction effect. Don't remember what it was, but he then proceeded to just win the match after that. I wish I'd stuck with the plan though, because I don't think Medusa halves defense points. I'm just going to check. Let's see. Mythical Beast Medusa. Oh no, wait, my mistake. It does halve defense points as well. What's half of Endymion? What is Endymion's defense points? This isn't something that usually comes up. 1700. Yeah, I do have a copy of Endymion myself for dual thumbnail purposes. Oh, I guess it wouldn't have made a difference though, because what I could have and should have done was still use Borrowload to take Endymion anyway, and then switch it to defense mode and just hope it survives, and then at the end of his next turn it would have gone to the top of his extra deck and he wouldn't have got to search for a spell. Well, a normal spell, that is. But I think he would have been able to attack and destroy Endymion anyway, but even though he would have had to use his battle phase to do it. But then again, well, I still would have used Borrowload's other effect to reduce one of his monsters by 500, so I don't know. But yeah, I'd like to think the original plan would have changed everything and made a significant difference. Because yeah, I did wonder whether or not Endymion had to be destroyed by battle while in its owner's possession to rotor for a normal spell, but it doesn't matter because it says when this card with a spell counter is destroyed by battle, you can add one normal spell from your deck to your hand. Then again, I don't even remember if it had a spell counter. It's been a while. Maybe I should look back on that match for the sake of curiosity. So annoying though. Could have potentially had it, but not that time. Then I went up against Bernardo with Paleozoic Frog. And yeah, I could have easily won game one, but he luck sacked me. Yeah. Yeah, this match was just absolute bullshit. It was one of the most bullshit matches I ever had. I mean, no disrespect, of course, but yeah, I was actually doing well against him. Like, I was playing through whatever he had. I even dropped him to 1700 life points, and I think mine were untouched. And then he top-decked Mystic Bloody Mine and stalled behind it. Yeah, that just threw me off and really annoyed me. Like, I wasn't expecting him to have Mystic Mine, but yeah, that changed everything. And I just couldn't get rid of it. Well, I do play Twin Twisters. I mean, like I said, I play a copy of Twin Twisters in every single deck I play, well, except Exodia and my Highlander Yuya deck, but that's it. So I desperately needed to draw Twin Twisters, but I didn't draw it, at least not yet. But after a while, when nothing was happening, we both ended up with the same number of monsters, and Mystic Mind got destroyed. I was like, alright, this is my chance to fight back. But unfortunately, by that point, I couldn't get any other monsters out. I think Borrelode was still my only monster, but all my others were used up. And he was just setting monsters, and then I ran out of cards in my deck, and yeah, because I think I'd used up Monster Reborn and Borrow Regenerator. Boot Sector couldn't revive anything, so I had no way to wipe out his life points, so I had to scoop. And then we were running out of time on the round, and I sided. And I did see some sided cards, which were 2 copies of Gamma Seal, but I drew no other monsters, just a whole bunch of unplayable spells. So yeah, I bricked, and there was just nothing I could do. I mean, I used a Gamma Seal to get rid of a Toad, but that doesn't really do anything, because Toad can just recycle itself. So yeah, I just ended up scooping. Yeah, so yeah, you can see why that was an absolute bullshit game, because he only won game 1 because of Mystic Mine, and but yeah, I lost the whole match otherwise, because like, I bricked, time was running out, and it was against a deck that I hate with a passion, like, which is also among my top 10 hated decks of all time. Like, seriously, no offence to anyone, but fuck Paleozoic Frogs. I think I actually decided to just give up playing in tournaments again. I was like, fuck this challenge, I'm not dealing with this bullshit anymore. Yeah, Cyber Dragons, Endymion and Paleozoic Frog just really annoyed me that day. But then again, regardless of that decision, it didn't even matter, because after that, the pandemic basically started, and it basically put the UK in lockdown. Same with pretty much every other country in the world. So as a result, Dead Uni had to close, because yeah, it's not an essential workplace. So yeah, that meant no game nights, no tournaments, no nothing. Yeah, lots of people were just disappointed and upset, me included. Well, not just because the uni was closing, but just because, like, this pandemic was happening. It was just nuts that like a huge worldwide illness was happening in our lifetime. Gotta love 2020. Not. And yeah, obviously a load of other restrictions were put into place. So basically there was just fuck all to do, really. And yeah, it was just so bored on Saturdays. So I'd spend a lot of time playing video games, watching gameplay videos of old Sonic games. I mean, I'd still record videos, of course, although they'd be more online games. And a few openings as well. Some random old products, and I still open some newer sets, including Tomb Chaos, Battles of Legend 4, and the 2020 Megatins. The Megatins, of course, introducing Red Eye's Dark Dragoon to the TCG, which I was not happy about. I mean, the card came into existence in 2019, but this was the year where we'd actually get it in the TCG. So I heard about, when I first heard about this card, I saw that it was a fusion of Yugi and Joey's Ace Monsters. And then I went to read what it did. It's like, can't be targeted or destroyed by card effects. Okay, that's pretty cool. Can destroy a monster without targeting, and inflict damage equals that monster's attack. Okay, so it's just like Destiny and Dragoon, Volcasaurus, and number C39 Utopia AV. And it can be done up to the number of, as many number of times as the number of normal monsters used. So it can do it twice in a turn if Dark Magician and Red Eye's Black Dragon were used. So I was like, okay, that's really cool. Then I read the other effect, where it just negates anything by discarding a card, and I was like, oh, hell no! Fuck this card! And that made me hate it, and of course it would become my most hated card in the entire game. I was like, fuck that, I'm not using this card, and I don't ever want to deal with it. Now, some would question why I didn't play Dragoon and why I hated it, and some would even give me shit over it. But hey, my hatred for Dragoon is my opinion, okay? I have every right to my own opinion, and I have every right to play my Dark Magician deck how I want to play it, and if I don't want to play Dragoon, I won't play Dragoon. So yeah, that was that, although wouldn't stop putting up with it though until more nearer the end of the year. Anyway, returning to the tournament challenge, I thought I might as well just finish it off with Series 5 of the Dark Richician's Deck Grand Championship. Now, rather annoyingly, I didn't have anything with a YGO Pro and yeah, just YGO Pro. I had 3 computers, of course, the PC, the Mac and the laptop, but I couldn't get YGO Pro to work on one of those devices, so I had to do the whole thing over Dueling Book. Yeah, Series 5 was interesting. I did it in a new way, from how I did it in Series 2, 3 and 4, and did it in heats, and made it in a similar style to Robot Wars. Yeah, some memorable things about the Series 5 were one being Nobonites lost the title before the quarter-final stage. Yeah, it lost against Black Wings and Rockets. That was the first, well, the one and only time where a champion fell before reaching the quarter-final stage. Oh yeah, another thing to make a note of is Master Rule 5 came about round about this time. So the big change being that fusions, synchros and exceeders could once again be summoned to a main monster zone, just like that. No extra monster zone and no monsters with link arrows pointing downwards were required. So it meant decks which focused on those summoning mechanics could play them properly again. But the Master Rule 4 rules, which were being applied to links and pendulums, still stayed the same, which is just as well. So it meant I could properly play my elemental heroes at full power again. Oh yeah, and Stratos was at 3. That's something I forgot to mention about 2019. Stratos went to 3, and I think Super Poly did as well. Yeah, that was a big factor in bringing my elemental heroes to victory, because that was the deck that won Series 5. Yeah, it beat Red Dragon Archfiend, Summon Skull and Magnet Warriors in the heat. It beat my card deck in the quarterfinals, Blue Eyes White Dragon in the semi-finals, and defeated Dark Magician in the grand final. And by that point, Dark Magician had the record of having the most grand final places, like winning Series 1 and 3, and finishing second in both Series 4 and 5. So yeah, long last, Elemental Heroes won the title. Oh god. And then, to try and relieve the boredom of lockdown, I did multiple spin-offs to the Grand Championship. The Hero Grand Championship, the Casual Crunch Up. Oh my god, I can't stop farting. So sorry. So what did I say? Casual Crunch Up. The All Favourites tournament, and the Protagonist Grand Championship. And for the Protagonist Grand Championship, Express Gaming made some thumbnails for me, and very cool ones, which was very kind of him. Of course, I did still use YGO Pro for the AI gauntlet, where I'd take a load of my decks against a load of the AI's decks. And of course I'd win that, even though some of the AI decks were really tough. Although I really hate that they have banned cards in them. I didn't understand why at first, but I feel like the AI decks, both on YGO Pro and Edo Pro, were following OCG ban lists, which I don't think is really fair on us TCG players. Like, why can't they be set to TCG? Now on Dev Pro, you could actually edit the AI decks and make them follow the damn ban list. but rather annoyingly on YGO Pro and Edo Pro, there's no way to edit them. And I remember making a post on a Facebook group asking if there's a way to edit the AI decks and make it stop using banned cards. But not only did no one help me, but 2 people gave me shit for playing against AI decks. I mean, what was it to them? I mean, does it really matter who I play against on there, whether it's real people or the AI? One of these people was the same guy that gave me shit over those reasons for quitting tournaments. Yeah, I just finally lost my patience with that prick and just straight up blocked him. Yeah, I didn't appreciate those comments. Anyway, after that, some cool stuff did happen. Got a hold of 2 boxes of Toon Chaos in a bid to get the Toon stuff. Didn't get all of it though. Had to get the rest in either trades or just buy them, which I really didn't want to do, considering that at the time Toon Blackluster Soldier was so expensive and hard to get. Yeah, eventually my Toons were fully upgraded. Then I started another endurance, which would be the biggest endurance ever. Because, despite the shitty things that were going on in 2020, Yu-Gi-Oh! Was celebrating its 20th anniversary. And to take part in the celebrations, I did an endurance where any kind of deck was fair game. You know, current format duels decks, past format decks, speed duels, character. Yeah, it would just be great. Weber's 5 even threw in a rush duel deck over Dueling Book. Because of course at the time playing with friends online was the only way to play, since we couldn't go out and socialise. So yeah, we had games over Skype and Dueling Book. One annoying moment did happen. Again, my camera malfunctioned. Had the same problem as the previous 2, where the shutter messed up and it just wasn't turning on. Yeah, and I just got really angry and upset over it. And even though I did get a new camera, I had a few issues with that as well, at least at first. Issues that I'd fix eventually, but that was when I decided to use this iPad a lot more for recording dual videos, which I got given as a present. Of course, it wasn't easy to get a good angle with it, because I didn't have a tripod that I could fit it on. Anyway, after that though, some restrictions were eased, and yeah, people from two different households could actually mix. So I took this opportunity to finally go and see Express Gaming and Gamer Central, and yet we continued that endurance. Otherwise, it continued online. And then I struggled against various decks that Weber's 5 brought to the table, one of which was a Blue Eyes deck. Yeah, it was tougher than I thought, but eventually I defeated it with my Black Wings, and then he brought 3 different versions of Endymion against me, which I wasn't looking forward to, but I got really lucky against the first 2, because he bricked, but then with the third one, yeah, he had more luck and got off more plays, and yeah, my Black Wings were eliminated, and that's when I struggled. So I brought in Blue Eyes to try and specifically counter his deck and stop him going off. So the plan was the same as before. Try and get Blue Eyes Spirit Dragon out, or Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon, like on my first turn. I didn't get Blue Eyes Alternative Ultimate Dragon out, but I did get out Spirit at one point. Don't remember what turn it was on, but I did bring it out, but he was able to play around it with Millennium Eyes Restrict. So he tried to do something to get rid of Spirit, and I tried to tag, and then he used Millennium Eyes' effect to negate and equip, and I was like, wait, what? You can do that on monsters in the graveyard? And yeah, he could. Yeah, that was so annoying that he countered my countering. And I lost the duel. So again, my plan to take out a Pendulum deck with Blue Eyes just fell apart. Yeah, why does this always happen? It was typical. It's like, why was it I could beat a Pendulum deck with Blue Eyes in a tournament, but can never beat them in an endurance with it? I don't understand. Still, I beat Endymion eventually. I brought my rockets in, and this time I had better luck, and once again Borrowload saved the day. So yeah, again I finally triumphed over Endymion, even though it was only in an endurance though. So at that point, regarding endurances, Dark Magician, Black Wings and Rockets were the only 3 decks that beat it in an endurance. And I won with 800 points to spare, and he said, yeah, that was his last Endymion deck. Also, I thought, I'll explain more about that later. So yeah, I continued this against some decks that Marley had. yeah, he beat a few of my decks, but I won against the last one he had, which was Gaia Knights. Other decks I think I won against were Rika and something else. It wasn't Madolce's, because he did use those a lot earlier in the Endurance over Dueling book. And I managed to beat him with my Destiny heroes. Quite surprising, because before, Madolce's would give me all sorts of problems in an Endurance. Yeah, I mean, well, I don't really hate Madolce's, they're just so hard to beat. I think the only deck that can really challenge them and do anything against them is Dark Magician, as I can banish the Link monster, because obviously destroying it is generally out of the question, and if I can keep banishing the Tiara Masseuse, then they can't really bounce back. I mean, negating the summon with Solemn Strike is fine, but like another one can just come out, and the other one can be recycled. But yeah, even though his Madolce's did beat at least one of my decks, Destiny heroes came through for me. And then they got beaten by Battle Wasps. I don't remember what I beat Battle Wasps with, though. But anyway, the whole thing continued over Dueling book, and I also struggled against an anime version of a Supreme King deck, and I even decided to bring my own one in. Yeah, the real Supreme King cards, but I didn't have a chance to do anything with it, because this trap was used that basically destroyed my whole hand. I don't remember what it was called, but it was like, why would you do that? It's like, I wanted to have a fun mirror match. Real Supreme Kings against anime Supreme Kings, and you just didn't let me. Yeah, eventually I overcame it. Another deck that was causing me problems was Zack Attack. Yeah, that was a struggle. And rather typically, I beat that with one of the 3 legendary Yugi decks. The Battle City one. Like, I had to wipe out his life points with Ectoplasma and Tribute Dark Magician. That's how bad it was, and I hate doing that to my favourite card, but I had to. That deck was just annoying me. Now I can't remember if this was before or after the Zack Attack shenanigans, but I threw in a wild card and used the Edo Pro AI. Yeah, I think by that point I was using Edo Pro instead of Dev Pro. And I used a pass format Dark Magician deck against the Chaos Max deck. That proved to be a big mistake, especially since I used 2 pass format Dark Magician decks. Don't know why I thought that was a good idea. I was like, there was just no way I could overcome Chaos Max. I wanted to see if there was a way, but wasn't, because all my removal either targeted or destroyed. So I had to bring in a modern deck. I chose Summon Skull, but I was able to beat the Chaos Max deck with not too many problems. Then later on, Weber's 5's Evil Heroes then gave me some trouble. Cybers put up a good fight, but then they got eliminated. Then things started going down the drain for me. I brought in my Stardust Junk deck. A deck that I decided to make earlier in the year. And this was when I made that huge misplay against him, which I did talk about a couple of times, but I'll bring it up again for the sake of the series. So he has Malicious Bane out and an Honest Neos in hand. I know this because he did something to add it to his hand. And I brought out a Satellite Warrior in defence and popped his other cards, sat behind that. And then it set me up for another synchro play once it got destroyed. So I went into Shooting Star Dragon. God, I'm losing my voice. And I also had Stardust Spark Dragon on the field. Then here's where I messed up big time. I attacked into the Malicious Bane with Shooting Star Dragon, completely forgetting that he had Honest Neos in hand. And of course he dropped it, and I was like, oh shit, I forgot you had it in hand. And yeah, that just ultimately cost me the game. I'm going to turn the lights on. And this, of course, would ruin my chances of winning the whole thing. So I brought in Red Dragon Archfiend and thought I could do something. But I still got OTK'd, even though I dropped Red Gardener, which protected the original Red Dragon Archfiend from the effects of Malicious Bane and Sunrise. Like, can't believe that. Like, how the hell is it that I give one of my best monsters destruction, effect destruction, immunity, and still lose? After that, we continued the rest of it over Skype, because there were a couple of decks I wanted to use in a real-life game. Toons with the newer support, and Light Rays, another deck I decided to make earlier that year. But things just didn't go well at all. I bricked with my Toons. I mean, I had some of the support cards, but no Toon Kingdom. And then I got OTK'd. Or at least I scooped, because I knew I was going to get OTK'd. Yeah, it was just annoying that I didn't open with Toon Kingdom or any way to search it. Because like I keep saying, it's just impossible to be able to play Toons without Toon Kingdom on the field. And my Light Rays didn't fare any better. There were some things I could do, but not a lot, and I just couldn't bring any light ray monsters out. So, and then my random all-stars were brought in, but they pulled through. Battle Fader saved me from being OTK'd, and I did some Super Poly and Starving Venom plays to just take the game and finally eliminate his evil heroes. And then they lost against Plunder Patrol. Then my Speed Dual Dark Magician deck got OTK'd by them. Then I was just struggling again. I was down to the signature 3, but not even Rainbow Neos and Elemental Heroes could beat his Plunder Patrols. In fact, this was when I brought Rainbow Neos in. This was the game where the mind control shenanigans happened. I got out Rainbow Neos turn 1, but I don't even know why I brought it out turn 1. Because the only negates I can think of that would stop me bringing out Rainbow Neos are Adamancipator Dragite and Totally Arsehole, which would be summoned off Bahama Shark. Yeah, Dragite is something I keep forgetting about. It's one of my most hated synchros in the game, because it's a Dark Bribe on legs, but I forgot to put it on my list of hated synchros. I guess it doesn't help that I haven't encountered it that much, although I would encounter it in the Goatee matchup in 2022 and earlier this year. Anyway, yeah. Other than that, I can't think why I summoned it turn 1, because it didn't pay off in the other endurance where I did that against Endymion in the first encounter with it. And then, of course, this was when he played Mind Control, took my Rainbow Neos, and used his own effect against me, sending itself to spin my only other monster, which was Keeper of Dragon Magic. And then I couldn't bounce back, and I lost. Then my Elemental Heroes struggled against it. In fact, this was actually what started a rivalry between Elemental Heroes and Plunder Patrols. Because, this was the first of like a few encounters where every time I'd bring my Elemental Heroes against Plunder Patrols, I'd always fucking lose against them. Because all my plays would keep getting stopped and disrupted. Also doesn't help that Elemental Heroes are a mixed attribute deck, which makes it a terrible matchup for Plunder Patrols. Now, on one hand, I would like to have a match against that deck with Elemental Heroes and finally defeat them with Elemental Heroes once and for all. But at the same time, Plunder Patrols are a deck that I just hate with a passion and really don't want to have to play against. Because it's just disruptive as fuck. Like, it is so disruptive that it just doesn't let anyone play. But this encounter in this endurance was not what made me start hating Plunder Patrols. That would come in a game I'd have in 2021, which I'll get to in the next part. So yeah, Dark Magician was left to fight against both Plunder Patrol and another version of Endymion, Dragoon Endymion to be exact, another build that he made. And he said earlier that I eliminated all his Endymion decks. You lied to me, AJ. um, yeah, I did struggle against plunder patrols with Dark Magician as well, and I think at this point I was just losing all hope of winning the whole thing, but Magician's Soul and Spell Book of Knowledge, I nearly forgot the name, drew me into some cards that helped me turn the duel around. In fact, I remember there was a point where I had like two Dark Magician and Dark Magician Girl on the field, and I got rid of Bram, but Bram banished Eternal Soul, and just when Eternal Soul was about to destroy my monsters, I activated Starlight Road and brought out Stardust Dragon and saved my monsters from destruction. I really want to play Starlight Road in my Dark Magician deck again. Yeah, could be helpful, especially if people are going to bring Harpy's Feather Duster against me in casual games, as well as Twin Twist My Nipples. But yeah, I was able to win against Plunder Patrol, and with 500 life points. Now, even though he wanted to use Endymion in the last round, I didn't really want to play it out, purely because I'd be at an unfair disadvantage. Because I was on 500 life points, and he'd be going first, and he'd only just make a board of negates and do things that won't let me play. Of course, then he persuaded me to do it anyway, so I did, and I wish I didn't, because he made Dragoon on his very first turn. Yeah, this was my very first encounter with it, but yeah, there was nothing I could do. Like, if I had 2 apprentices in hand, then maybe I could have at least got rid of it, because obviously Dragoon's negation effect is only once per turn, so even if one apprentice got negated, the other one would have still helped me get over it, but I just didn't have the right hand and just ended up scooping. But I wish I'd just refused to play out that game, like, especially considering it was a deck that I really hate, and I'd be going into this at a huge unfair advantage. Alright, yeah, fair enough, it was my own fault for putting myself at that life point disadvantage because of the stupid mistakes I made along the way, but still, I just really didn't want to play that last duel out. In fact, I was so annoyed by how it went down that I just decided I didn't want to play in any more endurance games, because I kept making these stupid mistakes, and too many decks that don't let me play were being brought into them. Weber's 5 and Chris Reinhardt did hope I'd change my mind, but I really wasn't willing to. Then again, I did change my mind, like, some point in 2021, though. But that's another story, and I'm going to sneeze again. Excuse me. Then afterwards we got, like, one of the absolute worst ban lists ever, which was typical, because Since the pandemic started, we had 4 ban lists, and the first one was actually really good. Lunalite Tiger got banned. Totally Arsehole and ABC Dragon Buster got limited. And I was like, yes, ABCs are practically dead. I wasn't sure that Toad going to 1 would have made a difference, considering it would just recycle itself, but yeah, I was pleased that Tiger got banned, because I really fucking hated Lunalites, and still do, because Leo Dancer and Kaleido Chick exist. I know Express Gaming wasn't happy, but I was, because fuck their OTK bullshit. Mind you, one thing I will agree with is that I don't think Tiger deserved to be banned. Like, if anything, I know no one will agree with me when I say this, but I really think Leo Dancer and Kaleido Chick should have been banned, because they're the problem cards. They're the cards that just don't let anyone do anything. Because Leo Dancer is an OTK card, and Kaleido Chick makes it so I can't do shit in the battle phase, even to stop myself being OTK'd. I mean, Tiger would come back eventually, though. Like, I think it's still limited. I think. Don't know when it went to 1, though. Master Plan also got banned because it was just used too much in combination with Magician's Souls. Of course, I didn't have any strong opinions on that, because I wasn't playing Spirals at that point. I'm trying to remember what else got banned in March or April that year. The June one was fucking shit, because absolutely nothing got hit. Only 3 cards were unlimited: Necros of Unicorn, Ritual Beast, Ulti-Guy Repelio, and Altergeist Multi-Faker. I wasn't thrilled about Guy Repelio. Then again, there's cards in Ritual Beast that are just more annoying. Necros of Unicorn I just didn't care about, but I was not happy about Multi-Faker going back to 3. Like, what the hell were Konami thinking? Like, Altergeists are toxic as fuck, like, as I said before. I mean, if they were going to put that back to 3, they could have at least banned Silquitus and Hextia, since they're the actual problem cards, and all the floodgates that they play. Secret Village, Imperial Order, and Anti-Spell Fragrance. I know Imperial Order did get banned earlier in 2022, but it should have been rebanned a lot sooner. In fact, it should never have been unbanned in the first place. But yeah, the September 2020 list was also absolute garbage. I'm going to try and be as brief as I can, because I already talked about this in my top 10 hated ban list video. But yeah, I hated it because, again, nothing got hits that should have been hit. Toad and Dragon Buster went to 2 for some reason, when really they should have just stayed at 1, because fuck ABCs and Paleos. Then Called by the Grave went to 1 for absolutely no reason. Like, even to this day, I've been hoping it would go back to 3, because it's the best card to specifically counter Ash Blossom. Still hasn't happened, and by this point I've lost all hope of that happening. And even worse, Harpy's Feather Duster was unbanned, which I really didn't want to have happen, because yeah, that hurts my Dark Magician deck. I was even like, well, that's it then, Dark Magician is dead. Maybe that was an over-exaggeration, but I mean, can you really blame me for reacting that way? Like, again, like, we're just, Dark Magician decks are just too vulnerable to back row removal. Like, we pretty much can't do shit if our back row keeps getting wiped. Yes, Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, can protect it, but like I keep saying, I can't always bring it out, and bring it out consistently. I mean, there's more ways to do it nowadays, but the right cards won't always come up. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. Like, just a card that I just don't know why Konami would unban one of the most degenerate spells in the game. Like, only wipes out the opponent's back row and has no cost and no drawback. Yes, Harpy's Featherstorm searches it, but I don't see that as a valid reason to bring it back. In fact, I've been really hoping that Duster would get rebanned, but I don't see that happening now, considering it's had, what, 2 or 3 reprints since it was unbanned. Yeah, it's just infuriating. Wasn't happy at all. And the ban list after that was no better, considering that Toad and Dragon Buster went to 3. Any other changes I just really didn't care about. Now, well, I didn't want to do endurances anymore. It was replaced by something similar, raid bosses. Now, for those who don't know, how a raid boss game works is that one player takes one deck, which is the raid boss, and then the other person, the challenger, brings multiple decks against it. And the raid boss starts with 8,000 life points times the number of decks being used. So depending on how many, they'd start with a lot. And we did about 3 or 4 to start off with. First, Cosmo was the raid boss, used by Express Gaming. I won against that. Then Weber's 5's Evil Heroes were up next, and I used almost everything I had except for Dark Magician, because I wanted to use Rainbow Neos, Elemental Heroes, and some of the decks that were used in the Endurance that needed redemption. Stardust Junk, Summon Skull. I think I just had Summon Skull on hand anyway, because of a Halloween game we did where I bought that against his Plunder Patrols. I also had my own Evil Heroes, and my Divine Neos deck. And it took literally all of those decks to beat his Evil Heroes. My Elemental Heroes almost won, but not quite, and Rainbow Neos just finished them off. Now I had been hoping to have like a proper evil hero mirror match and a match with my elemental heroes against his evil heroes. Now we did have an evil hero mirror duel, which could have been a match, but we only made it one game because everyone else at the time was pestering us to get a royale going, and this was before the pandemic, by the way. So yeah, I wanted that to happen, but well, those matches to happen, but it never did. Especially since he ended up selling the core. How could he? I'm hoping there's a way it can kind of happen one day, but at least I sort of made that happen with George's Evil Heroes, but that wouldn't happen until either 2021 or 22. I think 22 actually. Then there was a point where I was the raid boss with, or my Rainbow Neos deck was the raid boss, but and I won against everything Express Gaming threw at me, even including Sacred Beasts and Cosmo, but I got very lucky against them. I only won because he bricked. That's something I forgot to mention. Sacred Beasts got their structure deck in July, and unfortunately, two of their support cards made me hate Sacred Beasts. Cerulean Skyfire and Awakening of the Sacred Beasts. Two annoying floodgates, which basically made it so I couldn't play. It then just became a lockdown deck. And they just ruined the archetype for me. So yeah, I don't hate the Sacred Beasts themselves. It's literally just Skyfire and Awakening. Like, why did those cards have to be made? Like, if they were either banned or never made, I wouldn't have a problem with the deck. Not that I see them getting banned, of course, because Sacred Beasts have never been meta. Yeah, I've just hated them for the last 3 years now because of those two cards. Now there was another. Actually, no. I was going to say there was another one, which was Express Gaming's Blue Eyes deck, but that was actually just a few matches with some of my decks. Dark Richician, Crystal Beasts, Generic Warriors, and something else. But yeah, those were the last games of the year. So I think that pretty much covers 2020. So yeah, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next part when I talk about 2021. Catch you later. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to the Dark Richician YouTube channel.